Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam. So Uddhava has spoken about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and now he'll begin recalling Krishna's pastimes outside Vrindavan. Uddhava Uvacha Tatasa Agaccha Puram Svapitros Chakirshaya Sham Baladeva Sanyuta Nipachya Tungad Ripuyuta Natam Hatam Vyakarshad Vyasum Ojasor Vyam. We talked about that. Are we all the way to 4?
Yes, 4 is started.
Okay. Kukudmino vidha naso damitva swayambare nagnajatim uvaha tad bhagnamanan api gridyato gyan jagnekshata shastrapita swashastrai. By subduing 7 bulls whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hand of Princess Nagnajati in the open competition to select her bridegroom. Although the Lord was victorious, his competitors asked the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight. Well equipped with weapons, the Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he was not hurt himself. So this is Kshatriya spirit. In Vrindavan, Krishna takes the role of a cowherd boy, but now we see that he takes the role of a Kshatriya, and he gains the hands of various wives. Nagnajati is mentioned here. I think previously Rukmini was mentioned first wife of Lord Krishna. Now Nagnajati. The princesses used to be able to choose their own husband at a Swayamvara function. And here the father set certain conditions, just as King Drupad set certain conditions, that to win the hand of my daughter he has to string this bow and he has to pierce the eye of the fish while seeing its reflection in the water. So here he has to subdue 7 bulls. And so many princes had made the attempt and they just gotten beaten up by these bulls. Bulls are, even 1 bull is a serious affair. And 7 bulls, not tame bulls either, not bulls with rings in their noses, wild bulls essentially. One had to tame them. And the Lord did it. Described just as one would play with toy bulls. The Lord tamed these 7 bulls. There was first some joking discussion first. And Krishna said, well, in our dynasty, these sort of rules are not entertained. And the King Nagnajit said, well, in our family, we require these things. And then Krishna said, all right. And he fulfilled the requirements. And then, of course, there was a fight because the disappointed contestants, they couldn't do it, of course. They couldn't subdue the bulls, but then they thought, we'll fight with the victor. So they fought with Krishna again, fools, and they were therefore killed by the Lord, defeated by the Lord. He defeated or wounded all of them, but he himself was unhurt. This way the girl knows she's really getting somebody. Not some Kshatriya princess wouldn't want to marry some weak, ineffectual, timid guy. She has to get a hero. So in this way, Krishna proved himself the best of heroes. Priyam Prabhur Gramya Iva Priyaya Vidhitsurarch Chud Dutarum Yadarte Vajryad Drabat Tam Sagano Rushanta Krida Mrigo Nunam Ayam Badhunam. Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parijata tree from heaven, just as an ordinary husband would do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wives, henpecked as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him. Purport: the Lord once went to the heavenly planet to present an earring to Aditi, mother of the demigods, and his wife Satyabhama also went with him. There's a special flowering tree called the Parijata, which grows only in the heavenly planets, and Satyabhama wanted this tree. Just to please his wife, like an ordinary husband, the Lord brought back the tree, and this enraged Vajri, the controller of the thunderbolt. Indra's wives inspired him to run after the Lord to fight, and Indra, because he was a henpecked husband and also a fool, listened to them and dared fight with Krishna. He was a fool on this occasion because he forgot that everything belongs to the Lord. There was no fault on the part of the Lord, even though he took away the tree from the heavenly kingdom. But because Indra was henpecked, dominated by his beautiful wives like Shachi, he became a fool, just as all persons dominated by their wives are generally foolish. Indra thought that Krishna was a henpecked husband who only by the will of his wife, Satyabhama, took away the property of heaven, and therefore he thought that Krishna could be punished. He forgot that Krishna is the proprietor of everything and cannot be henpecked. The Lord is fully independent, and by his will only, he can have hundreds and thousands of wives like Satyabhama. He was not therefore attached to Satyabhama because she was a beautiful wife, but he was pleased with her devotional service and thus wanted to reciprocate the unalloyed devotion of his devotee. So, Priyam Prabhu Gramya Iva Priyaya, Krishna Gramya Iva, as if he were an ordinary person. He brought this thing. Typically, a woman says to her husband, "Oh, I'd like this item, whatever it is. Wouldn't it be nice if I had such and such thing?" And the husband obliges. So Krishna played the role of an ordinary husband. Eva means as if. As if means he wasn't. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's playing as if an ordinary husband. So his wife said, "I'd like that flower." Krishna said, I'll give you the tree. And then Indra was angry. He forgot that Krishna had come to return the earring of his mother, Aditi. He forgot, Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Ridyanti Yuge Yuge, Krishna is protecting him and the other demigods from the onslaught of the demons. He could only think, Krishna has taken my tree. Because his wives, because he was, that Prabhupada said henpecked. Henpecked means dominated by his wives. The husband is dominant, but the wife controls the husband by sweet smiling, by being pouty if she doesn't get what she wants, by so many different ways. The wife controls the husband. But Krishna is not controlled by his wives. Finally, by sense gratification, because the wife is the supply source for sense gratification. So if you want sense gratification, you'd better be nice to me. But Krishna is not in that category. Swarat, he's independent. As mentioned here, he could create 1,000 wives like Satyabhama. We discussed the other day that when the Apsaras came to Narayan Rishi to tempt him, he frustrated them by expanding so many Apsaras from his own body, more beautiful than they were. So the sweet maker has no taste for sweetmeats. So Krishna is not dependent on Satyabhama or anyone else, nor controlled by Satyabhama, but out of love. Out of love, yeyatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. But Indra, Kritamriga, he thought that Kritamriga means a toy monkey, a toy deer, a toy monkey, a toy animal. What is that? Strishu kartavyam vishvasha naiva kartavyam strishu rajukulesha. I'm thinking of something else. Third canto. One should never associate with someone who's like a Kritamriga in the hands of women. Kapila Dev's instructions. What is that? Strishu Kritamrigeshu cha. Like that. One should never associate with a coarse fool who's like a dancing dog, Kritamriga, in the hands of a woman. Find it? Didn't find it. Okay. It's there someplace. One should never associate with a coarse fool who's like a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. 331-34. Teshu asanteshu, yeah. Tesh vashanteshu mudheshu kanditatmas pasadhusu sangam nakuryach chocheshu pitiable shocheshu yoshid kridamrigeshu cha. One should not associate with a coarse fool who's bereft of the knowledge of self-realization and who's no more than a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. So the Indra thought that Krishna was in that category. He's just dancing the way his wife pulls the strings. But he was thinking that way because he was in that category. Atmaman manyate jagat. Because he was in that category, foolishly he was accusing Krishna that you're controlled by your wife, because he was controlled by his wife. So, in this way, the fun was going on. And of course, Indra mounted a full force attack on Krishna, and Krishna didn't care. Sutam rite kam vapusha grasantam. Thank you. Drishtva sunabhon matitam taritriya amantritas tad tanayaya shesham datva taranta puram avivesha. Narakasura, Bhaumasura, the son of Dharitri, the earth, tried to grasp the whole sky. And for this he was killed by the Lord in a fight. His mother then prayed to the Lord. This led to the return of the kingdom to the son of Narakasura, and thus the Lord entered the house of the demon. Purport is said in other Puranas that Narakasura was the son of Dharitri, the earth, by the Lord himself. But he became a demon due to the bad association of Bana, another demon. An atheist is called a demon, and it is a fact that even a person born of good parents can turn into a demon by bad association. So it's a warning for parents, especially, that they have to be so careful to protect their children from bad association. By bad association, even a good child can be spoiled. Or by good association, even a bad child can become Krishna conscious. Hiranyakashipu saw that Prahlad Maharaj spoiled the whole school by making the sons of the demons into devotees. But it can go the other way, that by bad association, a good child can be spoiled. The parents have to be very careful. And therefore Prabhupada so often criticizes these schools and colleges because they're institutions for bad association. Intoxicants, gambling, meat eating, illicit sex. The whole thing, the whole place is conducive to bad association. One has to be very careful to protect children, especially children, young people, young adults, from bad association. Birth is not always the criterion of goodness unless and until one is trained in the culture of good association. One cannot become good. Any questions so far?
My question was on the previous verse. Indra used to forget that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. It is already after that episode of
Muhyanti yat surya. Even the demigods become bewildered by Krishna's illusory energy. Muhyanti yat surya. We find this. Brahma becomes bewildered. Indra becomes bewildered. Especially by power, one becomes intoxicated. By power, one becomes intoxicated. Durmadhandan. What is that? In the second canto, why should the yatis, the sannyasis, go flatter those who are durmadhandan, those who are puffed up by wealth and false prestige? Oh, that tendency is there. One gets, did you find it?
Yes.
Chiranikim, yeah. Chiranikim patinasanti dishanti bhiksham naivangripa parabrata sarito pyashushyan rudha guha kim ajito vati no pasannan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadur madhandan. Dhanadur madhandan means intoxicated by wealth. So Shukadeva Goswami says, are there no torn clothes lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms and charity? Do the rivers, dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or, above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Kabayo, Bhajanti, why should they worship, flatter? Kasmat, why? Bhajanti Kabayo, Dhana Durmada Andhan. So that happens. One becomes wealthy, one becomes powerful. Ashesha Mandala Patishanim. The Goswamis in their, before they met Lord Chaitanya, were surrounded by power, wealth, influential people. Powerful men has access to women. So these things are intoxicating. Janmaishvarya Shutras Shribhir Edamada Madap Puma. Birth, high birth, wealth, Janmaishvarya Shruta, education. One becomes very proud. I've Dr. such and such, I've got a degree from such and such, I'm the author of such and such, I've He becomes proud of his education, Janmaishvarya Shruta, Shri, beauty or wealth. So these are all sources of pride and intoxication. And Indra has all of them. He's born as the king of heaven. He's got power. He's learned. He's handsome. He's everything. So, he's got a thunderbolt for a weapon. He's got an elephant, the best of an elephant from the ocean of milk as his carrier. So how great, how mighty Indra is. And people are offering hymns, the Indra hymns are all offered to Lord Indra. Oh, Indra, Indra. So he's thinking, I'm Indra. That tendency is there, so to forget. Anything else? Tatra hritas ta naradeva kanya kujena drishtva harimarta bandhum uttaya sadyo jagarhu praharsha vridanuraga pratihava lokai. There in the house of the demon, all the princesses kidnapped by Narakasura at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distressed. They looked upon him with eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives. Purport: Narakasura kidnapped many daughters of great kings and kept them imprisoned in his palace. But when he was killed by the Lord, and the Lord entered the house of the demon, all the princesses were enlivened with joy and offered to become his wives, because the Lord is the only friend of the distressed. Unless the Lord accepted them, there would be no chance of their being married, because the demon kidnapped them from the father's custody, and therefore no one would agree to marry them. According to Vedic society, girls are transferred from the custody of the father to the custody of the husband. Since these princesses had already been taken away from the custody of their fathers, it would have been difficult for them to have any husband other than the Lord himself. This is the Vedic standard. They were kidnapped, so they were living in the house of the demon. So how could they be married? Who would marry them? Some guy who's, some woman who's been living in some other guy's house for 6 months, a year, or however long they were imprisoned. Now you expect me to marry you? There's so many girls who I can ask their father for their hand, and you expect me to take you from, some other guy's house? It's like, forget it. No self-respecting Kshatriya would take them. Even who was that? That those three sisters, Ambika and Ambalika, were kidnapped by Bhishma Dev. For the sake of his brother. But the sake of his brother? Yes. Vichitravirya. Then all right, so the girls are kidnapped, but then Amba said, but I'd already given my heart to Shalva. So how can I marry Vichitravirya? Then Bhishma said, I'm sorry, my mistake. So we'll send you back to Shalva with all honor and respect, and you can have your heart's desire. Then she got back to Shalva, and Shalva said, I don't want anything to do with you. Although they were, a couple, practically. They were lined up. But Shalva said, how can I marry you? You're like the remnants, It's like, Brahmin sits down and you serve him the remnants from somebody else's plate. It's like, can't even think about it. So you're like you were kidnapped by Bhishma. I don't want anything to do with you. You can go back to Bhishma. Well, that started the problem for Bhishma. Now that this girl wants to marry me, and I've taken a vow. Well, that's another story. But the point was that that the Shalva rejected her. And that was the system. I told the story the other day that there were some sisters in Nairobi who joined ISKCON.
Yes, when you were sitting ground floor Brahmacharya ashram. You were in Brahmacharya ashram that time. It was raining outside in the evening time.
Oh, yeah, I was telling someplace else that two sisters, a couple, however many, they wanted to join ISKCON in Nairobi, and in fact they joined the temple, and then the devotees, mostly Western devotees, I guess, they're thinking, these girls have joined the temple and their parents are making a big ruckus. But, that's how it always is. Like in America, anyone joins the temple, the parents complain that how can my son join this cult? How can my daughter join this cult? So the parents of the girls were complaining that how can these girls join ISKCON? And Prabhupada took the side of the father. Because the father said if they live in the ashram, then how will they get married? Because then it will be a doubtful question. They were in their father's house, but then they were in this ISKCON and who knows what. The system was if a girl was out of home for even one night, that was it. Not marriageable. And now the fathers are very eager to send their daughters to a very good university. Where they're rendered immediately unfit for marriage. So these girls were in difficulty. They'd been kidnapped by Bhaumasura. So who will marry us? So they were very joyful that now we're liberated, but now we have another problem, that no one will marry us. So then Krishna said, so what do you want? Well, we want you to marry us. And Krishna said, come on. Any question?
It's like we see Indra does so many mistakes regularly.
Indra does so many mistakes. He always somehow or other comes off this way.
So what should be the mood of a devotee who is like studying Bhagavatam and he's seeing like so many mistakes are done by Indra, and then that thing comes like Indra is just like that, like just a normal being. So devotee should respect Indra.
Yeah, that even though he makes these mistakes, just see that Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Yuge. Krishna protects, he takes the side of Indra, he protects Indra. Because after all, he's the head of the administrative demigods. So there's a Latin proverb, quod lecit bovi non lecit, no, quod lecit jovi no non lecit bovi. I think that's like that. What's legal for the king of the gods, Jove, is not legal for the cow. Rank has its privileges. What is that? Tejiyasam nadoshaya. That those who are super powerful are above criticism. Those who are powerful. Just like Lord Shiva, he's sitting with Parvati in his lap, on his lap in a group of sages, and even Chitraketu laughed at that. But that's the privilege of Lord Shiva. If one of our ISKCON gurus is sitting like that, it's all over, because we're not on that level. But Lord Shiva can sit that way, and he's not subject to criticism. He can smoke ganja, he can wear garlands made of poisonous weeds and skulls from the crematorium, he can wear ash from the burning god as a cosmetic, and still he's Lord Shiva. As Daksha neglected to consider. And he's powerful. He's not on the level of an ordinary person. Ordinary person wearing skulls becomes completely contaminated, smoking ganja becomes just a contemptible person, a stoned out fool. But Indra's, after all, he's Indra. One time Prabhupada was at a zoo with some devotees, and they came to the lion's cage, and one of the devotees sort of began to tease the lion. Prabhupada said, don't do that. He said, after all, he is lion. Even Brahma sometimes falls into difficulty. But he's not regarded like an ordinary person. We have to keep that in mind. Anything else? Asam muhurta ekasmin nana agareshu yoshitam savidham jagarhe panin anurupa swamayaya. All those princesses were lodged in different apartments, and the Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions, exactly matching each and every princess. He accepted their hands in perfect rituals by his internal potency. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord is described as follows in regard to his innumerable plenary expansions. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam madhyam purana purusham navayovanam cha vedeshu durlabham adurlabhamatma bhakto govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami. The Lord, Govinda, whom I worship, is the original personality of Godhead. He is non-different from his innumerable plenary expansions, who are all infallible, original, and unlimited, and who have eternal forms. Although he is primeval, the oldest personality, he is always fresh and young. By his internal potency, the Lord can expand himself into various personalities of Swayam Prakash, and again into Prabhav and Vaibhav forms. And all of them are non-different from one another. The forms into which the Lord expanded to marry the princesses in different apartments were all slightly different, just to match each and every one of them. They are called Vaibhav Vilas forms of the Lord and are affected by his internal potency, Yogamaya. Effected by his internal potency, Yogamaya. These different kinds of expansions are described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. It becomes quite a technical subject matter. But here the point is that the Lord can expand either in entirely identical forms or in forms that are slightly different. So here, the forms were slightly different because Krishna wanted to match the mentality of each princess. So he expanded into forms that were almost just like Krishna and Balaram. They're the same, but they're different. The complexion is different, color is different. Prabhupada said Krishna and Balaram are the same, only Krishna is black and Balaram is white. So these forms of Krishna were slightly different. That means everyone is individual. They were all queens. You could say there's no different. They were all the same. They were all in the same pot, as it were. They were all in the same, they'd all been kidnapped. They were all girls. They were all princesses. They were all kidnapped by Bhaumasura. They all married the Lord. So they're all the same. But no, they're all individuals. It's not that similarity on some points makes for absolute identity. We're also similar to Krishna in some ways. He's a person, we're eternal, he's eternal. But that doesn't mean that we're identical with Krishna. Krishna's an individual, we're an individual. And he's the supreme individual. Okay. Any questions? So Krishna got 8 wives and then 16,100 more, all in one go. Quite the marriage. Therefore it's a record. Yes, I'd have one godbrother who has 2 wives. We know in Africa their devotees have 3 wives, 4 wives. Yeah, it's African culture. It's like one wife is sort of only one. So it's quite customary to have several wives. But no one has 16,000. That's Krishna. And a palace for each wife. And he himself for each wife. For the ordinary man, if he has 3 wives, then he's got to manage between the 3. So Krishna had 16,000, so he had to manage that. So he managed it by expanding himself into 16,000 forms. Easy business. If you're Krishna. No one else can do that. Even Narad Muni was surprised. As a yogi, he knows how to expand into 2 forms, 3 forms, up to 8. That Sobhari Muni expanded into 8. The king had 8 daughters. He's the sage who became disturbed. He was meditating underwater, but it's not safe even down there. Some fish were engaged in some fishy business. And so his mind became agitated, and he decided he wanted to marry. So he approached the king, if I could have your daughter. He says, I have 8. And it was sort of a challenge, because you can imagine this sage had been underwater for so many years. He was not very handsome looking. Sages generally may not look so, they don't look like princes. And here he's been underwater, you can imagine him covered with seaweed and waterlogged or whatever. So the king thought, no, I don't think so. So he said, well, you can marry, if you want, you can marry all 8 of them. So the rishi said, all right. He transformed himself first into a very handsome man and expanded himself into 8 forms. Married all the daughters. So Narad Muni knew the trick, Prabhupada said. So he wasn't surprised when he went to 1 palace, 2 palaces, 3 palaces, and Krishna in each palace was doing something different. He was with a different wife doing something different, and treating Narad as if he went to the 2nd palace, and Krishna treated Narad as if he hadn't seen him in the first one. Went to the 3rd one, Krishna treated him as if it was new all again. So Narada wasn't bewildered. But then when it got to be 9, 10, 20, 80, no. This is beyond mystic power. Swamayaya, Krishna did this by his internal potency. No one else can do this. Okay? We have 2 minutes. Not really time to... Well, yeah, it's short. There's not a long purport. There's no purport. Tas vapatyanya janayad, atmatulyani sarvataha, ekaisyam dasadasha, prakater vibhushaya. Just to expand himself according to his transcendental features. The Lord begot in each and every one of them 10 offspring with exactly his own qualities. So these 10 sons were, what is that? Atmatulyani, like himself. Sarvata, in all respects. So these girls really lucked out. They'd been kidnapped by the demon. And this is the way of things. Sometimes everything looks bleak and we think everything's terrible. But then Krishna comes and everything becomes fortunate. These same girls who'd been all, what's the word? Blockaded in these apartments under the control of a demon, separated from their fathers, now became so fortunate that it became wives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and got 10 sons each, equal to Krishna. So, how wonderful. Shall we stop here? Yeah. So we'll see you the day after tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you. you very much.